Fines can be given in sports for almost any reason, but some of them still make us go crazy. Among all sports, the NFL is known for handing out fines like candy. Players and coaches get fined for anything the league doesn't like, but the leagues they play for try to hit them where it hurts, right in the pocket, to stop them from pulling pranks. Crazy, right? Let's have the gist in detail. Now, without any further delay, let's get into the video. Let's discuss the biggest high-profile sports fines. You could argue that most sports hand out fines to protect their sponsors, but the NFL, for example, does really care about uniforms that much. Rule 5, Section 4, Article 6 of the NFL Rulebook says players are not allowed to wear or show equipment, clothing, or other items that have commercial names or logos. This isn't something that just happens in the NFL. Every sport has its share of officials who talk too much and act way above and against the rules of the sport. But I must admit that the NBA isn't far behind when it comes to crazy fines. Nevertheless, I have made a list of the 10 biggest fines in sports over the past years. I know you won't be surprised with the inclusion of drug violations because we've seen some really big fines for those. Even if you don't believe it, some very big fines have been given out for this reason, and we'll discuss some of them in this video. So let's dive into it. The first fine on our list is that of Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, a player for the Los Angeles Lakers, said an obscene anti-gay slur back in 2011, which resulted him in a punishment of $100,000 being levied against him. During a game that Bryant was playing against the Spurs, he was called for a technical foul, sat on the bench with an attitude, and muttered an anti-gay slur that was so offensive that the commentators on the game said that the camera should get off Bryant right now in case kids at home were watching. Bryant expressed regret for his comment, describing it both as foolish and the result of nothing more than irritation. The next on our list of biggest fines in the history of sports is that of Alex Rodriguez. Surprised? Oh, you shouldn't be. Baseball fans know that A-Rod got out of one of the longest suspensions in the sport's history some years back. In 2014, the New York Yankees player was banned for 162 games because he used illegal drugs to help him play better. This meant he didn't play any baseball at all in 2014, so he lost his whole $25 million salary for the year. Oh, I almost forgot, A-Rod was fined in 2013 because he missed a day at the office. The third baseman for the New York Yankees was fined $150,000 for violating the collective bargaining agreement. This happened because he went to a second doctor without telling the Yankees. He also didn't show up to a meeting where the evidence against him in the Biogenesis baseball scandal was going to be talked about. What about the case for Ben Roethlisberger? Ben Roethlisberger, a star quarterback, was accused of sexual assault not once, but twice some years ago. In 2008, a hotel worker in Nevada said that the QB hit her when she went into his room to check the TV. The civil case was finally settled in 2012, but no one said anything about what happened. But Big Ben had a similar situation in 2010 when a drunk 20-year-old woman accused him of raping her. His accuser asked the DA not to press charges because she didn't want to be in the news. Big Ben seemed to have escaped another disaster, but the NFL has had enough of him. Roethlisberger broke the NFL's personal conduct policy in April 2010 and was suspended for 6 games. On appeal, the suspension was cut to 4 games. Even though Roethlisberger's suspension was shorter, he still lost $1,894,118 in pay. Next up on our list of biggest fines in the history of sports is Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is well known in the sports world because he owns the Dallas Mavericks, a team in the National Basketball Association. Cuban is known for always saying what he thinks, and ever since he bought the Dallas Mavericks in the year 2000, he has racked up a number of fines. He is known for getting angry with the referee when he makes a bad call, or for running onto the court and yelling at the referee even when the game is in progress. He hasn't even been afraid to use bad language at a press conference. Because of this, Cuban has had to give out fines so many times that he is almost used to it. He has paid a fine of more than $1.65 million, but the most he had to pay at once was $250,000. After he got angry on the court during Game 5 of the NBA Finals in 2006, NBA sent him a bill for this fine. This one definitely belongs on the list of the top 10 craziest fines in the history of sports. Not only players are fined, but teams as well. This is the case with the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils are a professional hockey team that plays in the NHL. They are part of the NHL's Metropolitan Division, which is part of the Eastern Conference. In 2010, the New Jersey Devils tried to make it more likely that they would win the Stanley Cup. They thought that trading for Russian superstar forward Ilya Kovalchuk would be a big step in the process. This really has to be one of the top 10 most ridiculous fines in the history of sports. But by making this trade, the Devils ended up breaking NHL rules about the number of players involved and the number of draft picks they had to give up to get Kovalchuk. He signed a deal with the team for 17 years and $102 million. That also meant that the Devils tried to break the salary cap rules. Because of this, they had to pay a $3 million fine and give up their first and third round draft picks. Next on our list is James Harrison. As someone who has closely worked with the NFL and the Heads Up football program, I can say that the league is doing its best to stop professional and school-age players from taking hits to the head. This is exactly why Pittsburgh Steelers player James Harrison was fined $95,000 in 2010 for 3 illegal hits to the head. The first time someone was fined $50,000, they hit a Cleveland Browns player in the head. The Titans were fined $25,000 for a second offense, and Drew Brees, the quarterback for the Saints, was fined another $20,000. Next, let's talk about the case of McLaren. Formula One Racing has won a lot of races and is the second oldest team still in use after Ferrari. And because of that, the two teams are each other's biggest rivals. In 2008, McLaren was involved in a scandal called Spygate. They really did spy on Ferrari, which led to a $100 million fine for them. This is thought to be the biggest fine any athlete or team has ever had to pay in the history of sports. In addition to having to pay a fine, the team lost all of its constructor points for the season. Some of F1's best drivers like Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton were not punished for continuing to race for the driver's title. Another case worth mentioning is Mike Tyson. This may be the most aggressive thing that has ever happened in sports, and everyone remembers it. Mike Tyson actually bit off a piece of his opponent's ear during the Sound of Fury fight in 1997. Tyson lost his boxing license because of what happened, and he also had to do community service and pay a $3 million fine. The case of Bill Belichick will definitely interest you. As head coach of the New England Patriots during the 2007 NFL season, Belichick should have been on cloud 9 because his team went undefeated during the regular season. But during the first playoff game, Belichick was caught recording the Jets' defensive signals, which is against the rules of the league. He had to pay a fine of $500,000. The team had to pay a fine of $250,000, and the Patriots lost their first-round draft pick the next year. Wrapping it up, let's talk about the case of Rory McIlroy. How a professional golfer can get fined for throwing his club in anger is something I'll never understand. The USGA is strict about golfers who don't act like gentlemen on the course. But should it cost guys thousands of dollars every time they do it? I don't think so, but who am I to say? One thing is clear, no one is safe from this kind of fine. The then number 1 player in the world, Rory McIlroy, was just one of the latest people to get hit with one. He did it during the BMW PGA Championship. It was fined for an undisclosed amount. It looks like guys will have to learn to control themselves, just like Happy Gilmore did in that sports movie. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Maybe you should. So, that concludes today's video. If you found the video helpful, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. See you next time.